We are here at Audio Advice Live 2024 with Definitive Technology and Denon. That's what we're going to be talking about in today's video. Hey folks, I'm Gene Delasalo with Audioholics. We're here with Michael Johnsjoy. How you doing, Michael?
Good, how are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. So we did a video with you last year in this same room at Audio Advice Live. You put on a great demo there, put on another great demo here.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed this demo. You know, I thought we were listening to box speakers, and then when the lights came on and we saw that these were all flush mount products, I was impressed. And one thing people may not always associate Definitive Technology with is the fact that you guys have serious architectural product. It's not just about the box speakers or the bipole speakers that you guys are famous for. You actually have solutions that could go in the wall, because some people can't put box speakers in the floor. They don't have floor space, or their significant other doesn't want to see the speakers,
like
right?
Mine.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So I was really impressed with what we heard here. The sound quality was dynamic. It was expansive. We listened to Dune, the first Dune.
The first Dune, yes.
I commend you for the fact that you're not playing Dune 2. We don't have to see the same scene over and over again. So we watched the first scene in Dune. It was a scene where those oricopter thingies were flying up in the air, or if that's what it's called. I'm not a Dune person, so please be kind in the comments. I just felt like when those helicopters, oricopters took off, that I felt like I was in the movie, right? I felt like I was experiencing what would it be like if I was on that sand and those things took off, and then the worm came, and it was a very immersive experience. Now, I was sitting pretty close to one of the speakers. You were actually using a bipole speaker on the sidewall, which at first I was like, usually we don't use bipole or dipole speakers for side channels now that we have Atmos. But in this situation, it actually worked out well, because I wasn't like blaring at me, right? It was just very expansive sounding, and I think that's probably what you were trying to go after when you set up this system.
Yeah, so just like our tower speakers, right? Our Dymension towers, where we are full bipole and have been full bipole since like day one, right? Of Definitive. We bring that also into our CI product line, right? So we have the Dymension CI, so it is the DW Surround Max is what the model number is. So it is a in-wall. It is dual 5¼ inch woofers in there with dual 1-inch aluminum oxide tweeters. Both of them are kind of offsetting each other. So it is going to fill up that space, just like our front dipole, like tower Dymension speakers do, create a more expansive front staging. These are going to create a really nice expansive like side stage for surround.
Well, a couple of things I like is I was a huge fan of Mythos STL.
Yeah.
I thought that was one of the best speakers Definitive Technology has ever made. You're carrying some of that technology with this phase plug driver. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so everything that we do and this is our Max series, so this is our top of the line with our Dymension CI currently. It's our BDSS driver that is carried down from Dymension all the way into our CI product line. It also carries a linear phase guide, so that is going to create a phenomenal like wide spread out with it, with really low distortion kind of coming out of there as well, as you probably heard today.
For sure. Now, one thing that really impressed me is I was sitting like in the third row, right? There were 2 rows in front of me with people. I was thinking to myself before the demo started, I'm probably not going to hear the dialogue very well.
Yeah.
That blew that notion right out of the water, because I did hear the dialogue well. We were listening to the Lady Gaga Star is Born demo where she gets up on stage, and right before she gets up on stage, Bradley Cooper's kind of talking her into coming up. You could actually hear them whispering, kind of talking really low, clearly, and I was in the third row. I thought that was really impressive, especially since the center channel, where is it?
It's behind the screen.
Behind the screen, that's why, okay. Guys, if you could do an acoustically transparent screen, that's where flush mount products have a huge advantage, because every seat is a good seat in terms of vocal intelligibility.
Correct, yep. And that's really handled by 2 things too. It's really handled by the Denon AVR-X6800h, which is powering the whole 7.2.4 surround system here. But it's also, we did run Dirac on this as well, and that does help, especially in, you know, challenging rooms like this at convention centers.
For sure. Now, that was really impressive. The fact that this is a very large room and you've got 3 or 4 rows of seats. You were running not the flagship, not the A1H, 2 models below, the 6800, which is about $3,500.
$3,500, yep.
So that's 140 watt per channel AVR. It's 11 channels of
11 channels of amplification.
So you guys have the 70% guarantee. We've talked about this many times in many articles and videos. They guarantee 70% of the 2-channel rating. Usually a guarantee for 5 channels driven. I've measured it for 7 channels driven.
Yeah.
You guys are pretty conservative about that.
We're pretty conservative with it, yep.
So that receiver did a great job in this room. I was really impressed by that. But what really got me was the bass. We've done the review of the DN, it's a DN15, right?
DN15, correct.
So the DN15 has a 15-inch driver and 2 passives?
Yep, so 15-inch active in the front and then 2 passive raters on each side of it.
So I really enjoyed that subwoofer. You could check out our review of that sub. James Larson did an exhaustive test. He really liked that sub. It's not a small sub.
They're not small.
You got to hide that away somewhere.
You do.
Yeah. But 2 of those in this room did a great job of giving us tactile bass. It didn't sound strained at all. There's some demos that I heard that the demo rooms needed more subwooferage. This was not one of them.
Yeah.
It did a really great job.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the Atmos channels, what you have here.
Yeah, so the Atmos channels that's a fun speaker in our lineup. It's super versatile. So that is the DC-80 MAX. So it is an 8-inch in-ceiling speaker. The cool thing about that is the whole basket where the woofer's at, the whole thing pivots. So wherever you're at, like if you got to go too wide or too deep really with your surround channels, we can pivot that whole basket back towards the listener, or if you're on a vaulted ceiling, right? So that you're not crossing paths with the sound waves, you can direct that straight down off of a vaulted ceiling. And then also the tweeter is also pivotable separate from the woofer basket itself.
So the entire woofer and tweeter could pivot together?
Or separate.
See, that's really important, guys. Some in-wall speakers will only let you pivot the tweeter, and that's not really ideal. If you want to direct that entire sound coming from the speaker to the listening area, you really need to have the woofer and the tweeter on the same plane firing at the listening area. That's awesome that you have the ability to do that, and then also fine-tune the tweeter
Fine-tune the tweeter to get that voicing and that staging properly.
And those are 8s, right?
Those are 8-inch.
So that's why we had so much dynamic range in the system, is we had, see, sometimes people forget that the Atmos channel actually does have a lot of content, and they'll put a 5 1/4 or a 6-inch in the ceiling. I prefer 8-inch Atmos speakers if you can, because you have more dynamic range, you have higher sensitivity, more output to keep up with the rest of the speakers. And I didn't hear any strain above me. I just heard very good immersive bubble, which is what you want when you're doing Atmos demos.
Yeah.
So last but not least, I was trying to tally up how much this whole system was in my head, and I came up a little bit higher than it actually is. I thought it was about 14 or 15 grand. What was the actual cost of this entire system?
Yeah, so just the audio load, this whole system, so that's the whole 7.2.4 system, right? So that's the 2 15-inch subwoofers along with it, and the Denon AVR-X6800. It comes in just a little bit over $12,000 for the whole system. And when I mean a little bit, it's $12,040.
That's a lot of performance that you get that filled up this room for that kind of money. I mean, it's very reasonable to ask for that, especially because you have Dirac to really tune the system in on
Yes.
it. So guys, well, first of all, Michael, I really appreciate you dropping the knowledge here on this awesome demo experience we had here at Audioholics Live. Guys, if you like this video, please hit the thumb up, hit subscribe. Don't forget about our Patreon channel at patreon.com/Audioholics. We appreciate your support. You get direct access to me if you want to suggest video topics. And until next time, my friends, keep listening.